But then I started to write unselfishness, responsible, supportive, self awareness, and hardworking. I think all those are, I think we can kind of all agree that those are all hallmarks that fall under duty. Now, happiness, like the sister said, is fleeting. And I think that we could put a lot of components in on what makes people happy. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's trips, whether it's, spending some time by themselves or anything else that they can self indulge. But to answer the question about the relationship versus marriage, relationships are about agreement. Marriage is about commitment.
I often hear the guys, especially, saying, "You don't marry because you want to be happy. You marry because of your duty." So we're going to be talking about that. What does that look like? Anybody want to answer that question? What do you guys think is duty? When guys say you don't marry for happiness, you marry for duty, what do you think that means? Anybody? Not really an official question. I just wanted to get your idea before we
Yeah,
get into
so
it.
I'll jump in. I think, at least the way I hear it from the men, is that like in the moments where you're not happy, because happiness is fleeting, still do the things that you're supposed to do, and not just be you're doing it when you're happy, right? It's not so transactional, and it's more of a consistency thing.
I think when I think of duty, I think someone or a man picking a woman based off of what he can get from her versus what he likes. So if he sees a woman that is more family oriented, or if he sees a woman that is very nurturing, but he would like something else visually, maybe he would pick that person over what he likes, because of duty, because of his legacy.
I think duty versus happiness is that, like, irregardless of how you feel, there's certain things that you need to continue to go out. Like, if a brother is walking down the street and something's about to pop off, he has a duty, no matter how he feel, whether he's scared, whether he know what to do, he has a duty to step up. So no matter how you feel about it, duty supersedes how you feel. Now, granted, happiness isn't the end of the world or something that, you know, that is wrong to desire, but too many times I see, like, happiness is everything, and if you ain't happy, which is a fleeting emotion, like, people are just gonna just leave whenever they feel like
So do you think that duty, because I heard Inaz, you think duty comes, but okay, so I hear Penny, I hear Inaz, and I also hear you, Harrison. Do you think duty, with Inaz, duty comes after marriage? So meaning once you have chosen a mate and you guys are married, that's when duty sets in? Or do you guys think, when more so what Penny was saying, duty is more so of you're going in thinking dutiful thoughts? Which do you think? Because the reason why I asked that, because we have to remember, most people aren't married. Most people are in committed relationships in our community, at least. So with that being said, do you think that duty only makes a difference as it relates to marriage, or do you think duty starts before marriage?
I was just gonna say, I think everyone has some level of duty in any aspect of their life. So I think people have duties whether they're in a relationship or not. However, in a relationship, I do think that there are levels in terms of duty prior to marriage. I think there's a level of obligation and expectations that come along when you're like in the, I guess, what would you say? Not dating, but more along the lines like when you're about to become like a fiance, so to speak. Yeah, in that courting stage, because I think that is going to help you determine whether or not you do need to move forward. So I think sometimes that duty should occur prior to the to the marriage. But I think once you're married, that duty becomes even more, I guess, serious.
I'm trying to sort out because Shan, your second question was a very interesting question. The the duty before marriage or after marriage, and what is it that why do we choose to get married? I think is the more important piece to that question is, and I'm kind of going to lay this out to the men, and because the duty happens after marriage. Duty is the reason why we typically don't get divorced. Duty is why we stay in marriages, right? Why do we get married to begin with? And I'm gonna kind of lay that out to the fellas to see if we can get some conversation moving with the gentlemen, because I think that's a very interesting question, the way you posed the second question. So what do you think, Harrison, Hink, and Luis?
If for a brother to get married, you know, a lot of brothers get married because of their religious beliefs. That's usually the first thing a lot of brothers do, or something that if you want to do, be considered doing right by a woman, you got to marry them. So that's usually the first two things that comes up for a brother to decide to marry. Now, I think most of the time, a lot of the reasons why brothers would initially want to get married is because of some sort of love or care, or you feel like, you know, this person is helpful, um, somebody you can talk to, you know, they're not too crazy because, you know, some people think all women are crazy. So, you know, you're going to have some level of crazy to accept. But for the most part, some level of dedication, love, reciprocation, respect, in order for a brother to consider it. But I think most of the time, oftentimes, I think that we marry because we're told in order for you to do right by a woman is to marry her. That's what I think is the main one.
So duty first, in your opinion, because that's a dutiful thing.
Oh, for
I'm
sure.
just I'm just starting the conversation. I'm trying to, because that, like me now reconsidering it, it is, the question is, why am I, right? So I'm just curious what you gentlemen's thoughts are.
I mean, one of my thoughts, starting off is okay, so we're talking about duty versus happiness in the juxtaposition in which happens between the both. So I've heard legacy, I've heard family, and those are the two that kind of stick out for me and resonate. But then I started to write unselfishness, responsible, supportive, self-awareness, and hardworking. I think we can kind of all agree that those are all hallmarks that fall under duty. Now, happiness, like the sister said, is fleeting, and I think that we could put a lot of components in on what makes people happy. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's trips, whether it's spending some time by themselves, or anything else that they can self-indulge. But to answer the question about the relationship versus marriage, relationships are about agreement. Marriage is about commitment. If if we only cared about agreement, nobody would get married. Because if I could just be in a relationship with you and we have an agreement, we have an understanding, right? Why does the marriage have to be the ultimate commitment if I'm committing to you by the form of our agreement that we're going to be together when I build this life, right? I think those two are mutually not the same, because someone could walk away and be like, hey, I'm not feeling this today. I think that we need to reconcile and go our ways, et cetera, right? Versus you're in a committed, like you are signed up, just like a mortgage, just like a lease, just like anything else. You know that you are in it for the long haul. You know what I'm saying? Agreement is temporary until two parties no longer are in alignment or agree with each other, versus a commitment where they know that there's a lot of things at stake: children, mortgages, assets, finances, etc. There is a vested commitment to make this work and to communicate and work with each other to make it go home. They're not mutually exclusive. To you.
Like
Well,
that.
you know, Chantel, you want to let me talk, or you want?
Oh
You
no, you
want?
go ahead. I just told her I like that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know. I mean, I know I'm on thin ice when it comes to Cheek Critique show. This might be
Bougie,
my last
bougie.
and only time because I say some controversial bull crap. So with me, most men wouldn't get married if the woman doesn't require. I said it many times before. We wouldn't do it if you don't require. We're gonna continue to be your lifetime partner. That's what we'll be, your lifetime girlfriend. We'll be okay with that. But once the requirement's there, the standard's there, that's your expectations. Now we have to adjust and adapt. But once we do it, we realize it's a duty. So I agree with the part about it's a duty. Yes, I do agree with that. But for the most part, two is always better than one. So, I'm a definitely look for a woman who's going to bring more than just happiness to my life. I need more than that. It's going to take more than that because I can find other things that bring happiness, right? But just the point of having some type of companionship, somebody to talk to engage with on a regular basis. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be there. She ain't got to go to her place. I go to mine. No, we're together. We're in one. We're all one. We're a unit. So that's the other, I guess, thing for me as far as marriage and why I do why I'm going to do or willing to do.
I have a quick, just a follow-up question for you, Hank. If we men will be in a relationship forever, if a woman doesn't, I don't want to say demand, but set the expectation that marriage is what she's looking for. If she sets that expectation, what prevents us from moving on to someone who doesn't set that expectation?
Well, it depends on the woman. If she's a great woman, you're not gonna fatten the frog for these other snakes to eat. So you're gonna bless her with your last name. That's what you're gonna do if you're smart. Now, if she's not a good woman, then you Uber back to the streets and allow everybody else to have their way with her, and then be on to the next, if that's the case. But if she's one of those type women that hey man, I'll be a fool to let her go. Then you'll go down to K Jewelers and buy that engagement ring and do what you need to do.
Okay.
So do you guys think that duty is more important than happiness? Because I hear a lot of people stating, "Oh, you're not supposed to marry for happiness. You're supposed to marry for duty."
I think duty's what's going to make the thing last or help it last.
And I agree with Hank.
Yeah, when there isn't happiness, because there won't be all the time.
Times.